Hi guys, Rory here,
And Matt Hale in Australia currently.
and we're just here to do a quick Q&A. So I'm going to ask Matt some questions,
Right.
and this is all preceding our upcoming two-day stage hypnosis training course that's happening on the 1st and 2nd of June 2019. So to get this started, where have you performed your hypnosis shows around the world?
Well, look, I'm based in Australia, so I spend a lot of the time traveling Australia, which actually is quite a stretch because sometimes I pop across to Sydney, which is a 5-hour flight. So I'll do a 10-hour round trip to do a 40-minute show for quite a few corporate events over that way. I live in Perth on the west coast, which is actually the most isolated city in the world. So I do have to travel a lot. So a lot around Australia, of course. New Zealand, I've toured Asia. As you know, I've done a theatre tour in the UK. We do the odd gig up in the UK when I'm popping back. I'm from the UK originally, actually. So when I have the chance to come over, it's always lovely. And we try and put some shows on when we have time. Don't have time this time, just the training. And where else? I've been doing a lot of cruises over the last few years as well, which has been lovely. So that's, of course, taken me to some weird and wonderful places. And we're from, I don't know, the island of Komodo, where I saw the Komodo dragons in Indonesia. Where else? Actually, do you know what? I've just booked another cruise this week. It's a last minute one, so I'll be appearing on a cruise going from New Zealand to Tahiti next month. So yeah, a lot of places all over the world.
Yeah, have a cocktail for me.
Will do.
So, how did you get started in this business, or how and why did you get started in this business?
Fascinated with hypnosis, just loved it. I actually took part in a show when I was 21. Loved the experience so much that it wasn't that kind of like, hey, that was cool, move on to the next thing. It was like, that was cool. Now I need to know how to do that. Now, obviously, without disclosing my age, that was a few years ago. So it was very hard to learn actually back then. You kind of had to just talk to old hypnotists if they would, or try and find old books from the library, that kind of thing. Everyone was quite guarded about it back then, and there was a lot of mystery about it. It's like, oh no, this is a power I was born with, and suitable rubbish like that. So yeah, at the time then I was definitely no. I kind of could see the psychology behind it, but obviously just needed to study it more. But it wasn't actually till a number of years later that I actually started moving into this professionally, because I had a long career in the media, so it stopped me kind of putting the show together and traveling with it. But when I actually decided to do that, I actually just was like, well, the only way to do this is quit this incredible job I had at the time and had for a number of years in radio, and just okay, it's time to put a show together. It's time to roll it out and see what happens. Yeah.
Nice, that's cool, man. How long have you been doing it now?
Probably 10 years full time. Yeah, I mean, since I think I quit the radio job end of 2007. So actually, so maybe a little bit longer. But yeah, and that was when I moved into the hypno world. Yeah, and of course, it doesn't go from zero to full time, overnight, of course. But there was a lot of great things I found along the way that kind of shortcut a rise above a lot of other entertainers a lot quicker.
Yeah, I was gonna say you quit the radio, but you've done numerous TV appearances as a hypnotist as well, I've seen.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I still regularly appear on the TV, on Australian TV over here, and actually filmed a pilot for one of the big networks here as well, for a special and various other things, and also just get asked to appear on the TV just for other unrelated hypno things as well, which is nice when you kind of build a certain profile up and you just become a bit of a public voice and opinion. But that also helps the promoting your shows, of course, as well. It gives you a bit more prestige in the market.
100%, and that's something we're definitely going to be having a chat about on the course as
Yeah,
well.
for sure. Yeah. I used to be on the other side of getting pitched to as part of a radio breakfast show. We were always kind of getting pitched all these ideas, people wanting to be interviewed and that. So I saw the other side of that. So when it was time for me to be like the one trying to knock on people's doors and try to get in the media, I kind of knew the best way to do that, and it certainly bore out in the interviews we continue to do to this day.
Nice. Always handy, definitely. So going back to the shows, Obviously you've been doing shows for 10 plus years. I'm sure your shows have developed, every year moving forward. Because you're quite good at updating your shows and keeping them
Yes.
modern and keeping relevant. What are your favorite routines to do in your shows? Or, for like right now, and maybe different ones that you've done in the past that you don't do anymore, maybe.
Do you know what I mean? Obviously, yeah, like you said, I do actually write a brand new show every year. It's different. So we talk about different things. So with my corporate show, I have a fairly standard corporate show, and that does change every now and then. But I keep it fairly broad. But then I write a brand new show, theatre style, public ticketed, that kind of thing. So we try and make that a real modern kind of update. And yeah, each year, there's always something bizarre or funny that kind of develops. But I always love the routines where you get a lot of movement, a lot of people up and moving or reacting, or what I like to call chaos routines, where someone else is reacting to something else going on, or they have the complete opposite opinion of something else. Because there are certain routines which you kind of can steer the way the way you think they should go. But there are others where you kind of only lay the bare bones out, and the chaos ensues from that, and you're really not sure, within a certain, safe and appropriate bounds, it's kind of funny to see that play out when you give it a broader canvas, I guess.
What would you say is the best show that you've ever done?
The best show? Oh man, that is an amazing question. That's really tricky. It's funny because you kind of you, you just have moments in certain shows which are like, I never expected that to happen, or that response, and it was just the perfect response. And then you think, how do I make that response happen each time I run that routine? And that is something we'll talk about, because when you find those little nuances, and you only find them out from doing a routine, or doing a routine within a show numerous times, and then when that one little thing that makes it even better shines, you kind of grab that and go, okay, how's the way we actually make that happen, rather than let that happen by chance. But so best show, it's so hard. I mean, we've had some amazing shows. Actually, what I think, ones which are memorable, there's two or three really memorable ones, I guess. Probably the first time I came back to the UK after having been doing this a number of years, and I actually did a show in my hometown, and also in the theatre that I used to go to as a kid, as the school trips used to go there. So actually returning and actually doing a show in there on the other side of being on the stage, that was a really lovely moment. But equally, I live by the beach here, and doing a show every year to a sellout crowd in my home suburb down at the beach here is always a pleasure. And then there was another memorable one last year, I guess, which was where I was actually I was actually on the same bill as one of the big local orchestras, which is a really strange pairing. But yeah, the booker had thought this is going to be great for a big family event, and it was a big outdoor event for 2 or 3 thousand people. So it was just a really great energy. I assumed it was going to be okay. We'll have a few hundred people just watching at the start until the main kind of orchestra thing happens. But we had a couple of thousand people with the giant screens out, and it really, that laughter did flow all around that outdoor park, which was quite incredible. Yeah.
Nice. I don't imagine there are many hypnotists out there who've done shows to 2 or 3 thousand people at one time.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
But if I could do it, anyone could do it. That's for sure.
exactly. So that I assume that's probably your biggest show that you've done. So 2 or 3 thousand.
Yeah, I mean, I regularly do big corporate events. So, I regularly do, 1,000 pluses in the corporate world. We do a lot of conferences. And again, of course, with that kind of size, using the side screens, that kind of thing. So there are a lot of big, large corporate events that I do, which are in the kind of big numbers. And on the cruise ships, you'll quite regularly play to 1,100, 1,200 people a night in those theatres there as well. But yeah, up in around the 2 or 3 thousand, that's very rare.
And when you started out, it's probably different. But like right now, what are the smallest shows that you do at the moment? Like the smallest amount of people compared to when you started out?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question as well, because I will still do small shows. Obviously there's a fee involved for a show, and I can't slice that fee to a tenth of it just because there's a tenth of the audience there. But if someone's willing to pay a fee for a show, and let's say, well, that's the show fee, I'm happy to do a show for 25 people, and and have done. And actually, as you go along, you do more shows and you become more involved in the private booking side of things. The best idea is to kind of build yourself up publicly so that your bookings start to flow, and you also, in your public bookings, you can start to get your experience and your video right and that kind of thing. But when you start to get those private bookings, it's interesting, because sometimes they'll say, yeah, there's going to be 120 people here on the night, and then a week before they go, oh, there's only 70 have decided they can come. And then on the night you get there and no, there's actually only 38, because there is another event that the CEO has decided they need to attend. So you have to kind of be ready for that. But yeah, I still will do the occasional very small show, but a small show for me now is probably around the 100 mark. But every now and then one surprises me. I think I did one last year for 26 people, something like that. Yeah, which is definitely not the smallest show I've done either. Still.
So on the topic of small shows, big shows, getting paid and not chopping your fee in half, I get an idea that you charge quite a lot more than the majority of hypnotists out there. How is it that you can do that?
Well, first of all, it's probably a necessity to be able to make a full-time living out of it. That's for sure. But look, I think we have to go into it thinking, you can drive a car. Now, that car can be a Mini, or it could be a BMW, or it could be a Lamborghini. And people will pay different prices for different things because of the perceived value. But I think when people are booking entertainment, yes, there's going to be at a certain price level. There are certain people who are looking for the cheapest deal, and I'm probably not going to be the correct entertainment for them. But I'd much rather them not worry so much about the money, but just know that they're actually getting the right product. So there are ways that you can make that decision a lot easier for someone, and make the price not as important as some other factors. Because if you're booking something, you need to be able to trust that person is A, professional, also B, does an incredible job, and actually does what they're booking it for, which is actually not just to be able to make all those people laugh, but if it's someone who's booking it on behalf of the whole company, they've also got to be answerable to their CEOs who are like charging them to book the entertainment. So they've got to, you've got to make sure it hits everything. So there are ways that you can not just make people believe that you're the right person, but actually give them evidence that you're a professional. You have stuff to back that up, and of course the show is going to hit the market or hit the demographic they're looking for. And there's a lot of things and a lot of mistakes I see people make, which kind of rule themselves out of bookers' minds when it comes to booking things, and it's certain small things which can be changed quite easily.
And we'll talk about those.
Yes.
Not right now.
Not right now.
So how did you turn it into a profitable business?
I'll show you my kind of pathway to how I got to here, and it was pretty much I realized that no one was going to just book me as a hypnotist because I've just said, hey, I've got a website, I'm a hypnotist, I'm going to be great, right? So that wasn't going to happen. So I saw the pathway was definitely build it up with putting my own shows on. So that was the initial thing, was to put my own shows on. And I found a little way which kind of actually made it quite easy to put shows on. Now, you don't have to put big shows on, and you're not going to do that as a unnamed hypnotist, unknown person to start with. But those small shows help. But actually, there's another thing that small shows do. They make you kind of almost bulletproof for any other shows that you do, because those smaller shows end up being in the less ideal conditions you would normally put a hypnosis show on. So yeah, there's a way, I'll talk about this on our weekend, but there's a way I found of actually building up to one show a week in quite a rapid amount of time, one public show a week in a rapid amount of time, and have that ongoing. But then my goal with that is, because that's up and down with the money you can make from that, but you can definitely make some good money from those smaller shows right to start. But from that, they become your kind of like your window into private bookings as well, because then at every show, you mention you are available for private bookings, and also people then do know that, oh, this is something we could book for later, and your inquiries will start to come from that, providing you have a tight show, of course, and you put that over professionally, and and all those sorts of things.
I guess it's different. There are lots of hypnotists out there who are told, just go out and do, any show that you can, get the little pub bookings and that kind of stuff. Whereas your version is kind of going out and doing your own shows and literally ticketing it.
Yeah, it is a slightly different way, but rest assured, we're still not talking about booking out theatres and stuff like that. There's a way where you can get free rooms or low-cost rooms or shared cost rooms with certain venues, who it's in their interest to have something in that room at that time. So, if you can provide them an option for some entertainment and make some money for it, and again, it's a win-win for you and the venue. But yeah, you're not going to be going into big theatres and doing that. So there's some interesting venues I end up working with that kind of method, but it was definitely the base from which I then progressed to becoming someone who predominantly does private bookings, and obviously as I went on, I just keep leveraging everything I was doing, whether it's the media appearances or the interviews and stuff like that, and then the bigger gigs, and then always keeping fairly current with your marketing to kind of reflect all the things and your increasing experience, I guess.
And you're all over social media and YouTube and Instagram. It's good. We'll talk about that. Just so to wrap it up, what would be 3 tips that you would give to a newbie, to someone who hasn't really done any stage hypnosis before? Maybe they've just done like one show or something like that. What would be your 3 main things that you would say to them?
I know this will sound like a sales pitch, but it's not. But I would just say, it's have a look around, but find a template. Like, find a template of doing it, so you don't have to make your own mistakes. So find someone who knows the shortcuts, who's made the mistakes, or has just thought, oh, that was a really good way of doing it. So there are lots of things now that from the 10 years ago, if I started again, I would go, oh, well, I would definitely do that, and that. So I definitely say, make sure to start with, you find a basic process to follow of someone who's done that successfully to start with. Secondly, basically kind of just get over yourself, just get out and start doing stuff. That was the main thing for me, is I had to commit, because I just actually burnt my bridges. I said, hey, let's blow up this amazing job I've had for the last 10 years, and let's try something completely different. So I had to straight away come out the gates and be really proactive, and realize that just because you say, hey, I'm now a comedy hypnotist, doesn't mean that people are going to come storming your doors down saying, please come and appear in our venue, let me give you some nice sums of money for this. So you definitely have to be proactive once you decide you're about to do this. But again, there's very easy steps you need to take. And thirdly, man, you've got to enjoy it. You have got to absolutely love it. This is a people-driven business, so you've got to be comfortable with people, you've got to like people, and you've got to be genuinely interested in people. I love it. And when I talk about come up to the stage, my friends, we're going to have a great time, I genuinely mean that. I'm so looking forward to meeting a load of new people and having fun with them and making sure they have a really good time and a great experience when they're on stage with me. That goes through everything from my marketing, through my words, and also through my actions. But I genuinely have in my mind, every time I hit the stage, I want anyone who joins me on stage to leave this thinking, oh, so glad I did that. That was so good. And just having a great experience with me.
Yeah, and they generally do.
Yeah. All works out nicely.
So that's all the questions that I have for you. Do you have anything that you would like to add?
Actually, do you know what? I'm gonna pop a little bit of video across that I filmed at my Fringe World run. That's when I did the 34 sellout shows recently, the festival with my new show, and I recorded a little video there just to kind of give a kind of little bit of inside look into that world as well. So I'll pop that through, and you'll distribute that somehow. But also, rather than me think of any questions, how about I'm sure I can think of a few, but how about anyone who's watching this now who may have some questions, if we can maybe schedule a Facebook Live or something like that, and we'll do a live Q&A, and we can answer some questions that people definitely want to know.
Yeah,
how's that sound?
Definitely. So if we do that on my Facebook, on the Rory Z Hypnotist Facebook,
yes,
is that good? And then people can go there, we will answer any questions that you have. So keep an eye on that. Matt, you'll also, I'm sure you'll post about when.
And I'll let people know about it as well. Yeah, yeah.
Keep an eye on either of them, and we'll do that. And otherwise, after that, we'll probably stick it on YouTube as well, so it can be found.
Sure.
Too.
Easy. Nice.
Otherwise, if you have any questions, do come along to that. Leave some comments below, and we'll get back to you on those as well. If you're interested in coming along and learning how to be a professional comedy hypnotist, how to make a living out of it, and how to do it professionally, and how to, really get in there, then come along and see us on the 1st and 2nd of June in London Embankment. And it's going to be Matt, Hale, and myself. 2 days of intensive stage hypnosis training. Never going to happen again, I don't think.
I don't do these normally. I'm too busy working normally, but I do love it when I get a chance to chat to people about this. So, let's do it. Let's have some fun, hey?
Cool. So hopefully we'll see some of you guys there. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon.